is Shante Anderson, and I'm a licensed mental health counselor in the state of Washington and Oregon. I'm also a certified health coach, a Reiki practitioner, and a yoga teacher. And I am running this channel just to be able to provide information on holistic mental health. So, how do we incorporate both mental health treatment and physical health treatment in a mind body approach to help people heal? And my specialties are really working with complex PTSD, and neurodivergency. So, I see a lot of adults with autism and ADHD that are often late diagnosed. And I do believe that there is power in education and information, which is a part of why I want to start this channel so that I can just provide information that might not really be all that well known to help educate people about neurodivergency, trauma, complex trauma, and how we can work with it in a holistic way. So, to begin, I thought that we would dive into what is neurodivergency in the first place. I will get into talking about trauma and complex PTSD at a later time, but I thought that I would start with neurodivergency. So, according to the Oxford Dictionary, neurodivergent is a differing in mental or neurological function from what is considered typical or normal. And the terms neurodiverse and neurodivergent were first introduced in the 1990s by Judy Singer, who is an autistic sociologist. And she introduced these terms to really try to replace deficit based language like disorder. And originally, the terms were really just used to describe autistic individuals, but it's now grown to really be an umbrella term. And it simply just describes that a brain might process information in a way that's different than others. Um, it now encompasses things like ADHD, autism, CPTSD, OCD, learning disabilities like dyslexia, dyspraxia, dyscalculia, sensory processing disorder, being a highly sensitive person, Tourette's. Sometimes bipolar is also included under the neurodivergent umbrella, and schizophrenia as well. And the beauty of recognizing neurodivergence is being able to see that all of these differences and how all of these different brains function is just really unique and interesting. And it's not always a deficit. A lot of the times there are a lot of strengths. Although there can be challenges with being neurodivergent, there also can be strengths. And I always like to recognize and hold space for the challenges because it is hard to live in a neurotypical world when you are neurodivergent. Because the world is designed for more neurotypical people because they do make up a majority of the population. The estimate is about that 10 to 20% of the global population is neurodivergent, and I've seen estimations up to maybe more of 25%, which is about a quarter of the world. And even though that's still a significant amount, it's still a minority compared to the three-fourths or 75% that is estimated to be neurotypical. So there are challenges of being neurodivergent, living in a neurotypical world. But I also feel like the strengths can get overlooked. And so I thought that I would go over some of the strengths that I often see with neurodivergent people. So, for example, autistic brains can be very highly creative and they can have exceptional concentration, logic, imagination, and can be very good at visual thought. They're also really good at pattern recognition, can be very meticulous, detail oriented, and give different perspectives than other people. ADHD often can have very big imaginations, often can be more creative, can really hyper focus and get in and get work done, and they're often really great problem solvers. Another example is dyslexic individuals, and we can actually see this in the data. So, dyslexic individuals score higher in reasoning and have stronger memory skills, have stronger three-dimensional and visual thinking, and oftentimes can be better at decision making. So, if you're neurodivergent and often find yourself struggling with the challenges of living in a neurotypical world, I also want to encourage you to think about the strengths and maybe take some time to think about like what are your strengths as a person? What do you bring to the table? What are you maybe better at than maybe some other people? Because my guess is that they exist, but I understand that they can get overshadowed by some of the challenges. So, if you're interested in exploring more about neurodiversity and what that is to you or how it impacts you, I think that taking some time to go through some questions, through some prompts, whether it's just thinking about it or taking some time to write it down, like in a journal, can be very helpful. So one of the first questions I like to ask people and some of my clients is, what does neurodiversity mean to you personally? Because each one of our experiences is different as a neurodiverse person. We all have our own lived experience, and I think it's important to take some time to define, like, what does neurodiversity mean to you? Another thing that I always encourage people to explore is, how has your understanding of neurodiversity evolved over time? Because the way that we might have viewed neurodiversity as a child is going to be very different than how we view it now. Or maybe even 5 years ago, our view of it was very different from now. It could even be 6 months ago. So it's important to take some time to reflect on, how has your understanding of neurodiversity changed? Another thing that I encourage people to think about and to write down or journal is thinking about your strengths with being a neurodiverse person. And can you identify what those strengths are, or write down some memories or some examples of where your neurodiversity helped you out, whether it helped you problem solve or it helped you get through this situation. I just think that taking some time to write down or reflect on some positive experiences with your neurodiversity can be really helpful. We need to learn to embrace our neurodiversity and not always view it as a challenge or a deficit. I also encourage people to think of topics or things that they're interested in learning more about in regards to the neurodiversity, and then starting to explore different resources for this. So it might be going online and reading articles or blogs or watching videos such as this to learn more about neurodiversity and different aspects of that. It might be going to see a therapist and starting to explore some of these deeper meanings for yourself with that therapist. There's also neurodivergent social groups or support groups that I think can be really helpful to join as well, that allows you to meet other neurodivergent people, which is extremely important, but it also allows you to hear other people's lived experience with their neurodivergency. And I find that that can be very helpful and also comforting to hear other people's experiences and to know that you're not alone with some of the challenges, but also with some of the strengths too. So I hope that this video was helpful in teaching you a bit more about, what does neurodiversity mean? What does that all encompass? And what some of the strengths are with this, and how we can focus on embracing our neurodiversity. If this video was helpful and you want more, you can hit the subscribe or follow button for more. I will be posting more neurodivergent content along with complex PTSD and PTSD content, and things related to holistic health and how to manage your mental and physical health holistically. So thank you so much for joining me. Again, I'm Shantae Anderson, and I look forward to seeing you in the future.